Hello, everyone. Welcome to our March episode. Sorry, April. We're in April, the 2nd of April. Hello, in our April episode webinar of World Chefs in collaboration with our partner, Nielsen-Massey, and their amazing chef, Sofia Tejeda. She's originally from Mexico, which is also as I learned today, the home of vanilla. But right now she's based in San Antonio, Texas, from where she will be talking to us today. And actually, she's taking us to her own personal kitchen. So, hello, Sofia.
Hi everyone. I'm super happy to be here today. It is 7 o'clock in the morning here in Texas. So
Mhm.
hello or good morning, good afternoon from wherever you're joining us from today. I saw someone say that they were joining from Turkey and Bosnia. Hopefully there's some people in Texas here. I'm very, very excited to be here today.
Mhm.
Like you said earlier, my name is Sofia. I was born and raised in Mexico City. And I've been living in the US in San Antonio since 2008 now. So this is my home now. I kind of divide my time between being a pastry chef in Martha's Vineyard during the summer season. And then during the winter or the off season, I am home in San Antonio. And I work a lot from my kitchen. I do orders and do stuff, from here and then sell it. So Nielsen-Massey reached out to me, and being the fact that I'm from Mexico City, I am very, very passionate about our vanillas from Mexico.
Mhm.
Um, since vanilla originated from Mexico a long, long time ago, that is, where it started. It, as soon as I learned that there was Mexican vanilla bean extract and paste and stuff, it's all I use pretty much
That's
when it
amazing.
comes to vanilla.
Mhm.
Um,
We read from your bio that you put a lot of attention to the ingredients, like the way how you select them. Probably it's a special process in your creation, right?
Oh, absolutely. So, where you get your ingredients from is very, very, it's important, right? It's you have to select things that kind of make sense and that flavor profiles go together really well.
Mhm.
And I like to use things that I personally enjoy and that I know that people that I care for enjoy as well.
Mhm.
So, I try to get flavor profiles and ingredients that I know that like my are nostalgic to like my friends and my family or like the guests, things that are local, things that are seasonal.
Mhm.
And I think it's also very important nowadays to choose ingredients that are trendy, just because at the end of the day, you are serving a customer. And if they see something on social media and they want to try it, you
Yeah.
kind of have to offer it to them. So that's also very important now. It's a very different thing that, us chefs kind of have to like get used to doing, just keeping up with trends because of that.
Mhm.
Just because people expect it and they want to try it. And you kind of have to keep an eye out on all of those ingredients people are using or that are going viral to put it on your menu because
Yeah.
people just want to try it.
Yeah. 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 So I know, for example, that today two of the ingredients that you have picked is honey and vanilla.
Yes. So we are gonna use Mexican vanilla in all of its presentations pretty much. So we have Mexican vanilla bean, the actual bean,
Mhm.
um, right here. We have our vanilla extract and then vanilla paste. And then we
Mhm.
also have, I'm also using honey. So at
Mhm.
the hotel that I work at in Martha's Vineyard, we have two essentially colonies of bees. And the GM of the hotel is actually also our beekeeper.
Mhm.
So we harvest the honey once a year during like May or June.
Mhm.
Um, which kind of goes back around to like staying seasonal and local. We literally I get my honey from a few, I don't know, yards away from where I work.
Mhm.
So I'm going to be using that as well today. Honey and vanilla are really good. They go really well together, because vanilla is kind of like a base. Vanilla goes well with everything, but the flavor profiles of vanilla are very like grounding. It's a really good base, and adding that honey kind of just the aromatics and the little bit of bitterness just kind of rounds it really well together.
Mhm.
So I wanted to use those together and make a really cool dessert with. I don't know if you can see over here. I'm going to move my camera a little bit. These are kind of all of the components that we're going to be using for the dessert. And I also have an ice cream actually, which is in the freezer, which I'll get in a little bit later.
Okay.
Just to talk about, just to show all of the components for desserts. Um, let's see. Are we ready to kind of get started with a demo?
Okay, so I'm gonna leave the spotlight soon enough. Just I
Okay.
want to invite everyone. I see that we have chefs from everywhere. I see
Okay.
Bangladesh, Morocco,
My gosh.
Saudi, Australia, from Perth, so Rwanda, so
That
from
is
everywhere,
so cool.
basically. I just motivate everyone. I know that when we have so much international audience, there are probably a lot of different questions. So just ask your questions in the question and answer section. And in the end, we're going to have a discussion with Sofia. Feel free, there's no wrong questions, right? So just ask all the
Absolutely.
curiosity you might have for Sofia. And me, I'm going to be here and I will talk with you in the end. Good luck and thank you very much for putting this together in 7 a.m. your time. That's thank you.
Thank you. Of course. Thank you so much. Welcome everyone. Like I said, this is incredible. I thank you for taking the time out of your, I'm sure, very busy day all over the world to join us today so we can talk about Nielsen-Massey Vanillas as well as kind of do a little bit of like a learning experience when it comes to plating desserts and all the different components that you can put on your dessert. Um, so just to kind of recap a little bit about vanilla, Nielsen-Massey is essentially a family-owned company that has been around for many, many years. They make the best quality vanilla that I have ever worked with. Um, and when they released their Mexican vanilla paste, me being from Mexico City, I just immediately gravitated towards it. Vanilla was, it is native to Mexico. And that's where, that's the origin of vanilla is from Mexico. Um, which is, really, really cool to kind of learn all the history of that. Vanilla beans or vanilla pods come from orchid flowers. Here you can see that they're dried out. They've been through the process of like drying them out so we are able to use them and to get those like aromatics out. Usually when you get it off of the orchid flower, they're usually green. They're very, very green, very pretty, and then they go through a process of essentially, for lack of a better word, like cooking them and cooling them down and like drying them under the sun so that we are able to use, the vanilla bean pod that we know. Um, so yeah, that's it on vanilla. So this whole seminar is about plating, right? there's I, I've seen in the past few years that plating has kind of like evolved and it continues to evolve in the restaurant industry or the culinary industry. And there's always this kind of guideline to guide yourself by, which is there's like five main components to plating desserts. I'm gonna get my little notes out if you don't mind. Um, there's five main components to any plated dessert. Of course, you can kind of personalize it, take some stuff out, put some stuff in. Like I said, most importantly with trends, keep an eye on that and see what's going. Sometimes a lot of things on a plate make sense. Sometimes you kind of have to like simplify it and use less components or less ingredients and just show off, a specific thing you want to. So you kind of personalize it. The five main components would be like your main item, of course. So that one star of your show, that one, I don't know, cake or a mousse, or that one main component that you want to like shine the most in your dessert. It is going to be your focal point, your most important ingredient, your most important flavor profile that you have to concentrate on. And then you can do something like a sauce or a cream or some, I guess, a little component that's going to give you a little bit more of a flavor contrast. You usually see that as like a gel or a sauce or something like on the plate or like a caramel. That is this part. The sauce is a good component to do if you want to do something tableside. You can warm it up and go up to the guests when they love it, where you pour it on top of the dessert or do a whatever swoosh on the plate or whatever. You can get very creative with that. Then there's a garnish. The garnish is usually my favorite part of the plate, just because you can do a lot of with it. You can get really playful and creative and colorful. This is a really good place in your plating to make something that's colorful and fun, or playful. And you can do chocolate work, sugar work. I mean, make a twirl. There's a million ways you could go about this, and this is my favorite part. You can get very, very creative. And then you need a little bit of crunch or a little bit of texture. So be it, I like a little, like a crumb or a crumble or like a cookie or twirls. Twirls are Very versatile. You can do so much with them. There's a million molds out there that you can use to make your or elevate your dessert a little bit more, and the guest usually really enjoys it as well. And then another component that I don't personally, I don't think it's always necessary in every dessert that you make is frozen. So whether it be like a semi-freddo or an ice cream, a sorbet, gelato, a little scoop or a quenelle, it I don't think it's super necessary in every dessert that you do, but it's always a really good little option to have. You can get very creative with your ice cream sorbets as well. And it's kind of like that thing that rounds out your dessert and just closes it out and makes it all kind of cohesive together. So the dessert that I'm going to be doing today using all of these components um, is a dessert that I had on the menu for my last summer season in the hotel that I work at in Martha's Vineyard, where I used our honey from the hotel and then our Mexican vanilla in basically all of its like presentations. It is called a Hokey Pokey dessert. So Hokey Pokey is an ice cream from New Zealand that my chef tried a few years ago, and he was like, "I want to make this." It is essentially ice cream that vanilla ice cream that you fold honeycomb into. Given the fact that honeycomb is expensive, the way that I adapted it a little bit so that it was more economic for us to make and sell and produce was to make that honeycomb that you cook your sugar and your water, and then you add baking soda to it, and it like puffs up. It's been going pretty viral on TikTok. I'm sure some of you are familiar with it. Um, and so that was kind of like my focal point. And then from there, I really leaned on and played with the idea of kind of playing with like the bees and the honey and the honeycomb and all of that stuff. Um, so we're gonna play that. But before we do that, I did want to do a demo on caviar. So there's like two main applications to make caviar out of like fruits and jams and purees. What we're doing today is we're doing a honey caviar. Um, you can do like a warm way of doing the caviar, or you could do like the normal room temperature way. Um, I like doing the one so the warm one, you have a puree and you have a simple syrup, which you add like gelatin and pectin to. But your working times are a lot shorter depending on like if you're like in a cold environment, because that puree that you're essentially making into a sphere, it can set really quickly. So you're kind of working on the time crunch. And, in a restaurant, if you have 1,000 things to do and you have stuff in the oven, it's just a little bit harder to keep up with because you really just need to like concentrate on what you're doing and not lose, any time. So today we're going to be doing kind of like not easier, but it's just like more like crazy pastry chef, very busy during service friendly um, caviar. So we are going to start with just a container. We're going to be immersion blending. So, of course, you don't want to like incorporate a lot of air into it. So, you're going to need like a vessel. And I'm just going to scale out 110 grams of honey. This is this honey is very, very rich. God, I wish you could smell through the phone. It smells incredible. It is very, I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me get a little closer to the camera. There you go. So that is like 110 grams of honey. And then we're going to add 190 grams of water. This is room temperature water. And then we're going to add 1.6 grams of, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly, sodium alginate. Ooh, there we go. Let me see if you guys can see this a little better. There you go. So we're going to add this to our container, and then we're going to immersion blend it. So it's going to get a little bit loud. While you immersion blend it, you want to make sure to start low and then move up in speed, just so that it incorporates really well. Try to get as little air incorporated as you can so that you get like a cohesive thing, but there's not that many bubbles. It might get a little bit loud. I am so sorry. All right, so now that we have an incorporated product, it's emulsified, it looks really good. This would be a really good time if you can to let it sit and then let those kind of like air bubbles rise and skim them off before you put it into your squeeze bottle to make the caviar. Or you can put it into a vacuum seal machine to get all that air out. We don't have one, so we're just gonna work with what we have. We're gonna transfer that to a squeeze bottle, or you can also use the little things that are designed to make a lot of caviar at once. I just don't have one with me, but they do make time go. I mean, it makes this process a lot faster. Okay. And then we have to drop our caviar into a liquid. So for this liquid, I am just using, let's see, 500 grams of water, just room temperature water, and 2.5 grams of calcium chloride. Just gonna throw it in there, and I'm gonna give it a little bit of a mix just to dissolve it a little bit. As you can see, it comes in like, I don't know if you can see that, but we're just gonna make sure it's dissolved so that the caviar will become a sphere, when we drop it in there. So now I just need to make sure that you guys can see. Here we go. Okay, so now that we have our liquid and our honey, I'm just gonna tap it a little bit to try to get rid of as many bubbles as I can. Like I said, there's, if you have more time, there's easier ways to do it. But so now we're gonna drop them slowly but surely into the water. You're gonna have to get that pressure just right. Shake it up a little bit. And then you can always play with the sizing, depending on how big you want it. My honey was a little bit cold, so these are coming out a little big. And I think we all kind of got the gist of how this is supposed to be. Let me get another. So these are, I mean, they're done pretty quickly. To store them, they can be stored at room temperature. And you can use purees, you can use jams, anything that's smooth, and they become spheres pretty quickly, which is really cool. And it's another texture that you're adding to your dessert. It's another way to elevate what you're doing, and create something that's really, really cool for your guests to enjoy. I made these last night, but you can see these are a little different size, and they're pretty. I mean, they're easy to make. And from my experience, the guests love it when they see little pearls of extra little flavor on their dessert. Okay, so now we are going to kind of plate everything and go through all of those components that we talked about a little bit earlier. I'm just gonna show you guys how kind of like I represented on the dessert. Let's see. We are going to start with our plate, of course. I'm just gonna get the camera a little closer. Okay. So we talked about our 5 components. We're gonna start with our sauce or our which, like I said, it just adds a little bit of flavor. This is the more that we build a dessert, it's gonna become a little bit more clear why I added this. So this is just mascarpone. It's nothing crazy. with a little bit of course, vanilla paste, a little bit of honey, and I added a little salt. What this is going to do is it's going to give not only like a base for the dessert to get built on top of, but it gives like a rich, creamy flavor that's going to tie all that honey and sugar and vanilla together when you're eating the dessert, and just kind of cover the plate. Like it's think of it as primer when you're painting on like canvas. It's that little bit of building like base for you to kind of create your dessert on top of. Something that I like about plated desserts, or that I like to tell, like if I have an intern or if anyone, I'm teaching anybody, excuse me, is that your entire dessert can be delicious and it can look really pretty, but not every component has to be something overly complicated. So while making the pearls, it's time consuming, and the guest sees it and they're like blown away and it's very, very beautiful. You can counter it with something as simple as getting, mascarpone, like a high quality mascarpone, and adding, like I said, salt, vanilla, and a little bit of honey, to kind of balance how your dessert looks. And not everything has to be, super complicated and take days and days to make. You can have, a beautiful chocolate tempered, garnish that took you, I don't know, it takes you a while it crystallizes or whatever to make, and have something as simple as a crumble or something that's easier. It's about balancing the whole dessert together, both in flavor profile and in just kind of the design and like all the components that you're putting into a plate. So we're gonna start with this little, like I said, this little mascarpone. I'm gonna do a little bit on the plate. I'm just gonna swoosh it.
Sofia, can I interfere with a little question from the audience?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So someone is asking, what are you intending to do? Honey-based caviar with honeycomb coffee dessert?
So there is no coffee in this. It is all honey, vanilla, and like it's bee themed, I guess. So it is, I guess, it's easier kind of to show it than it is to explain it. So we have a little bit of like a mascarpone at the bottom. We're gonna top it with a cremeux, a yogurt, honey, and vanilla cremeux. Then we have the Hokey Pokey ice cream, which is a vanilla base with honeycomb folded into it. A little crumble, um, a tuile, honey vanilla tuile, our honey caviar, which we just made. And my favorite part is our little garnish, which is going to be a little honeybee that I made out of chocolate. So, like I said, this is going to be our base. Let me go get our cremeux really quick.
Mm-hmm. And there is a second question, more technical. How long can they stay at room temperature? And once they are ready and removed from the calcium chloride, do they need to be rinsed with water, or how can they be stored, liquid or dry?
So for the caviar, you can store it at room temperature. If you're in a cool environment, it will be okay for, I would say, like a week. If you're in kind of like a hotter environment, then I would put it in a refrigerator or in your low boy or whatever. And it releases a lot of water. You don't have to rinse it. You can just transfer it to, a little container. It does release a lot of water once it's been sitting out for a little bit, so you can just let it sit in its own little water. It releases and it will be fine. Okay, so now we have our cremeux. For the cremeux, I just combined some honey, some yogurt, gelatin, of course, and then vanilla, which is today's thing, and I molded it into these little molds. They're silicone molds. And they're very easy because you just pop them out. Like I said, it's about combining levels of like technical things to your dessert. It's gonna look really pretty. It's gonna look really nice. Your guest is really gonna enjoy it, but not everything has to be overly complicated to make. As long as it tastes good and it looks pretty, it's totally fine. All right, so we have our mascarpone, then we have our little honey caramel. I don't know if you guys can see that. I freeze it to unmold it, and I keep it frozen until I plate it. It is so thin that by the time that you present it to the guest, it has thawed out and they're very easily able to scoop it and eat it. From now, I'm going to do a little bit of crumbles just so that our ice cream has somewhere to sit. This is just a little oat crumble that I made with oats and puffed rice to give it a little texture. I baked it for maybe 30 minutes, mixed it a little bit. And this is going to add a little bit of crunch. So that's another one of the components of the dessert, right? You need to add a little bit of crunch, a little bit of texture. You want that smooth and rich and that crunchy to kind of balance out like the guest experience. And now I'm going to get some of our ice cream to top this with. Sorry, I keep having to go back to my freezer. Do we have any questions while I get some hot water? Okay, so this is our ice cream. This is ice cream that I churned at home. And I don't know if you can see the little swirls. That is the honeycomb that I folded into it. Okay, so something else that I personally think about plated desserts is that a lot of people like the cannelle ice cream. And while it's very beautiful, not a lot of people can, very make it quickly while you're in service. It's hard to kind of stop and cannelle ice cream. So I think it's totally fine to scoop it as long as you get like a really pretty round scoop. I know that's kind of like a hot take because people really like the cannelle, but that's just my personal opinion.
Someone is asking, can you zoom the plate a little bit, please?
Yes. Let me see.
Yeah.
If we can do, there we go.
Thank you. Perfect.
Ooh. Now we need to hold this. Let's see. Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties. There we go. Vanilla to the rescue. Yeah, so every dessert the 5 main components of a dessert are the main item, which is, your main component. The sauce, which is our the bottom at the bottom, we did that mascarpone vanilla and honey. And then our garnish, which is going to be our twill and our bee. And then our crunches, of course, are a little crunchy, little soil. And then our frozen component, we're going to have, I guess, two. So we have the cremu and then we have the ice cream. Guess I should have scooped this. Sometimes you can even do a garnish and make it your crunchy component. So let's say that you can do meringue, right? You can add color and you can make it your really pretty garnish, and it can also be that crispy, crunchy component to your dessert. Here is our ice cream. Please don't fall. And now we are going to add a little bit of that caviar we made earlier. A little bit to each one of these little clusters. if anybody would like any recipes, I'm more than happy to share what I know with people. And then we are going to add a little honey twirl on top of that ice cream. And then this is my favorite part. So I'm gonna move this out of the way for a little bit. I made these really pretty little honey bumblebees out of chocolate. Um, Very easily tempered a little bit of chocolate and put it into another silicone mold. Silicone molds are such a good way of doing really cool stuff with. There's companies like Mold Brothers that make them. You can get things from people that like 3D print them or make them at home. I mean, the possibilities are endless. So I got a little mold and I made these cute little honeybees. And then I learned of this hack through a girl that worked with me, where if you get sprinkles and you cover them in gold luster dust, you can very easily add whatever you want to coat in gold and just swish it around a little bit. And just like that, you have a little gold cut dusted bee. I'm gonna do a little bit, a couple of those. I'm gonna swish it around a little bit again. And there we go, another little gold bee. So we are going to garnish our plate with a couple of little bees. And then just a little, something you need a little bit of color. A meringue would be really good in this, just a little crispy meringues. But I have some fresh lavender in my uh, that grows naturally in Texas. So I went and picked some this morning before I started. So I'm just gonna add it to the plate. It's gonna add, you know, an extra little bit of flavor, an extra little bit of color, more texture to this. And we have this pretty dessert where it's all honey and it's all, you know, Mexican vanilla from Nielsen-Massey, but it cohesively comes in together really well. Like I said, let's go, you know, through all of the components again. We have, you know, our sauce, which is the one at the very bottom. We have our main component is going to be our, you know, the honeycomb cremu at the bottom. Then our garnishes are the bees, the twirl. For the crunch, we're gonna have our little soil, that twirl on top again, and then our frozen dessert is our ice cream. So while you know you get something that's very visually pretty and exciting, um, we combine both very technically advanced components and making the caviar with something as easy as getting mascarpone and folding a couple of ingredients into it and creating something that's very visually appealing for people. Given that social media is so big nowadays, we have to make sure that, you know, our desserts are really pretty and people look at them and like them and take a photo of them and tag you and then, you know, all of that stuff. And then it's also going to taste really good and people are going to enjoy eating it and just enjoy the overall experience. I think that is it for me for now. I really wish you guys could taste this with me, even though it's a little bit early for me to be eating a plate of dessert. But this was a really, really cool thing to do. Like I said, if anybody needs any recipes, I would be happy to share them with you. And I think for now we are ready for some questions. So
Thank you, Sofia. It's actually super, super beautiful. Like, I think I've gone already to a lot of gastronomic restaurants and dessert. Maybe I'm not a huge fan, but this is really nice. Like, I've never seen, like, very rare you see something this detailed with the little bees and you improvise the bee house. It's very, very beautiful.
Thank you so much.
We have a comment here. So chefs say, don't leave a space in the dish. The whole dish must be filled. What do you think about this approach? Since we're talking about food.
I think, you know, plating is, it just depends on, I mean, it depends on how much you're charging. It depends on who you're presenting it to. Sometimes, you know, a dessert does call for you to use the whole plate and make it, you know, the whole thing. Sometimes it doesn't. It depends. You need a little bit of balance. This is, you know, the creative aspect that I try to take towards it, but I do see it. There are some desserts that really deserve for you to serve the whole plate. This one's just something small. I wouldn't sell it, you know, in a really big restaurant with like 400 covers. Like, no, this is
Mhm.
maybe something that you do more for like a tasting menu or like a
Okay.
smaller portion. It kind of depends.
And since this episode is about texture and plating, when you think of a recipe, do you, in your creation, I'm always curious when I see like so innovative recipes, I'm like, how did this chef, which to me is more like an artist, came to this final beautiful plate? So when you start concepting a plate, a dessert, does it start sometimes from the way how it's going to look, or how do you go there?
I feel like usually you have an idea, right? So you are like, okay, I want to put a dessert with honey and vanilla on the menu.
Hmm.
And it kind of develops from there. From what I understand, things are going to change, they're going to evolve, and I like to do a lot of research, both looking at cookbooks and just looking online to see what other people are doing and get inspiration from that and kind
Hmm.
of create my own thing. But like the first my first draft of a dessert changes exponentially from when I come up with the idea to when I serve it to the customer. For
Hmm.
this one, I was told, like, we have bees on property, we want you to use the honey to make something. And then I took it into a very whimsical and playful way. And I just made, like these bees made out of, like, I took it very literally and put like bees into a dessert and got like honeycomb and made everything bee themed.
Hmm.
Which is kind of how I like to do things. I like to be a little bit playful and a little colorful. And dessert is the end of the meal. It's supposed to be fun and exciting and like a really good way to like close out. So, when you go to a dessert and you're order or a restaurant and you're ordering dessert and you get bees in your plate, it's cute, it's really sweet, it's really funny, it's adorable. And
Hmm.
um I wanted to do something very, really go really hard with the whole bee honey theme, and that's how I
Yeah.
came up with this.
Summarize nice looks like the bee home. Same thing that I.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember once before coming to France and being with workshops, I worked for a hotel and we were organizing big weddings. And I remember this particular client, and he was like, we had like a super long discussion about the plate of fruits. And he say this thing, he say, dessert, it's the end. The people have eaten, they're full. They want to see something beautiful. And for some reason, him and the pastry chef wasn't finding each
Oh
other.
my gosh.
He was so clear about it. And now I understand what you say, that it's the end of the meal and people not necessarily want to eat anymore, but something that your eye is attracted to. Yeah.
Dessert is such an important part. I mean, I don't know how many pastry chefs we have here compared, watching compared to like savory chefs, but
Hmm.
pastry chefs and dessert is really kind of like a little bit of a dying art, just because it's so much easier to um to outsource desserts. And maybe, I hiring a pastry chef, it's expensive. Their skills, you're paying for what you're getting, and you're getting a lot of skill with it. So um I think that something that I wish people would kind of understand, it's that the dessert is the thing that people remember the most is the dessert at the end of the meal, right? They had a really good meal, and yes, salad or the amuse bouche was delicious and the entree was really good, but they before they pay you and they tip your server in the United States, I know that's not very common anywhere else, but the last thing that they get is dessert. It's the last you know, experience that they get with you. It's what you're giving them to say, like, have a great night. Thank you for joining us. Dessert is so important. When someone celebrates a wedding or an anniversary or a birthday, they get a dessert. You send them a dessert. It is that last little impression that you leave on your guest. And it's so important to make sure that it tastes good and it looks good and the guest has a really good experience. So they leave with that when they go home and then they come back.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So dessert, I mean, pastries are super important. Desserts are super important. Pastry chefs are very important in a restaurant.
Yeah.
And it's important. It's very, very important.
Yeah, of course, of course. It's a whole department. So we have a chef here saying, thank you. The plate is beautiful. Love the negative space left on the plate. I see a couple of comments from chefs about the negative space. They appreciate it and they like it. But there is someone saying, mhm, do you have any book recommendations for someone who wants to learn more about desserts and flavors and plating? So books about.
Ooh, I do. Yes. So there's two books that I recommend to everybody that ever asks me. It's called They're called the Pastry Chef's Little Black Book. There's two versions. The first one is out of print, so you can only get it online, but you can download it on your phone, which makes it easier. And then there's a second version, which you can actually buy a physical copy of. It
How it's
has
called, please,
every
again, so I put it in the chat.
the Pastry Chef's Little Black Book.
Yes, Little Black.
Yeah, there's two versions of it. The first one and the second one, and all the rest. It's every basic recipe you could ever need. Ever is incredible. Um, they've been tested and tested and tested, so you know that they work and that they're very good quality. They're very recently decently priced. They're not very expensive books. So those two are great. There's another book that I think won like a James Beard Award. It's called, so there's the original one, which is called the Flavor Bible, but they made a version of it that's called the Vegetarian Flavor Bible, which goes more for pastry chefs. So it's essentially a dictionary of flavors and ingredients and like fruits and vegetables and what they can pair with and what they taste really well with. The original Flavor Bible includes like proteins, which for pastry chefs, we don't need that. And the vegetarian one is obviously vegetarian and it has like fruits and vegetables. And it shows you a breakdown of like what flavors go really well with it. So you can kind of pull and like create a map essentially of like things that are going to taste really good together and then kind of plan your dessert after that. Those two books are incredible.
Amazing. I put them in the chat for every chef that wants to just take a screenshot because maybe they're not going to remember afterwards, and they are all over the Google. So,
Yes.
okay, Sofia, what is next for you? This is a question from me now, the audience
Oh my
me as
goodness.
well. And what is next for you? And where can we find you? Because which social media you can use, maybe for the chefs to connect with you and me myself as well.
So what's next for me? I am in San Antonio now. I'm home, but I am headed back up to Martha's Vineyard to Massachusetts to work for the summer. I will be working nonstop for 6 months, which is kind of scary. It's a busy season. We open just for 6 months and then we close. But I am headed back, and I'm gonna be working a lot for the summer. So from May through October, and then I'm coming back to San Antonio after that, and hopefully helping a friend open a restaurant. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see, what other desserts I come up with. This was from, my last summer season in Martha's Vineyard. So I'm excited to see what other cool stuff I create for this season. And then if you want to find me on social media, I have an Instagram. It is at the lovely Sophie with an I.
I just put it in the chat for chefs to follow you immediately.
Thank you. And like I said, I am more than happy to share my recipes with you guys. Anything that you like on here, I will send it to you if you send me a message. I very, very happily would send you, they'll be written down in, kind of chicken scratch, like we call it here in the US, but I'm happy to share them with you. And yeah, I love to connect with chefs all over the world and people that think like I do and are like-minded like me. I love bouncing ideas from other people. So I would love to make new friends and connect and just kind of, expand my network with everybody around here.
That's amazing. Thank you again for putting this webinar for us. I know that doing it live, it's probably much harder than just recording in your own piece. So we really appreciate all the attention and prep that you did for us today.
Of course, thank you so much for having me. And, this is a great association to be part of and be asked to do something with. So thank you so much. I hope, we can work together again in the future if anybody needs anything. You guys know where to find me. And thank you for joining from all over the world and, making the time to be here. I really appreciate it. This is my first time doing something like this. So I was really nervous, but I think it went really well. So thank you again so very much for joining us today. It means a lot that you carved time out of your day to join me today. And it was a lot of fun. Hopefully we learned a couple things.
For sure. I can see the chat and there's only compliments for you. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.
For all the chefs, we're going to meet in Wales. We're very close to our Congress. It's going to happen in May. Tickets are still available if you want to buy. Nielsen-Massey will be there providing vanilla for the GCC, like Global Chef Challenge competition. So yeah, this is like a moment where basically everyone involved in World Chefs and all the partners can meet there and have like an amazing time. So we're going to hopefully see you there, everyone, for all the tickets and everything. Just check World Chefs Congress Wales in Google and you're going to find everything is there. So I hope to see you there. And yeah, we will have probably a next webinar after May, but for the moment, all our attention